Hello and welcome back to the Old Gold and Black. This is Tom Rouse speaking to you, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so that you get updates for every single video. And today we're looking back at some of the moments of the season at home. We'll do another video later in the week to talk about the away moments. There's only one home game left, and that's against Fulham, and we'll do the next one before the Liverpool game. Although the Liverpool game could be one of the moments of the season if we spoil their party. Now, this was a really, really difficult list to actually compile because we've had so many home moments, and it really made it obvious to me how good a season we've had by all of these moments and some of the moments that I haven't even been able to include, and I'm sure that you will be able to think of some more that I've missed out. So I'll do these in chronological order, I think. The first one that I've written down as I've got a list of four. Manchester City at home. Man City, of course, it was the beginning of the season. It was only our second home game. We played Everton in the first game. We then lost to Leicester and looked pretty poor, really, in that game. And Wolves fans were starting to think that this was going to be a little bit of a battle this season and a bit of a relegation battle, perhaps. But this game against Manchester City made us realise that we are where we belong. It was around about the time that the Man City documentary had premiered on Amazon as well. So I'd spent the whole week watching that, and I was fascinated by Guardiola and some of the players in the team as well. But Wolves were able to contain them and to keep possession and to play their own game. And then midway through the second half, Willy Bolly managed to grab that goal somewhat fortuitously off his arm and made it 1-0 to Wolves with about 25 minutes to go, I think it was. And it wasn't too long later that Laporte equalised from a free kick from a very powerful header, really good header to be fair. But then Wolves had the chances then after that to try and nick all 3 points. I remember Traore coming on for his first appearance at Molineux and was getting down that side at Benjamin Mendy and causing him all sorts of trouble in the last few minutes. Then, of course, Aguero hit the bar in the last couple of minutes. But we managed to hang on and get only our second point in the Premier League. A really, really important part. And a sort of an indication of what was to come against the top teams, particularly at Molineux. Now, the next moment, I think a lot of people will disagree with, and they'll think that I should have picked the Chelsea home game. But I'll come to that in a minute. But I've picked the Leicester game just because of the pure drama of it. We'd seen Wolves grow into the Premier League at this point by mid-January, and they were playing quite well. They'd won a couple of big games at home. But this game was so, particularly second half, was so to and fro, and Wolves just about managing to get that goal at the very last minute from Diogo Jota. But of course, the reason I picked this is because it's the first time a Wolves player has scored a hat-trick in the Premier League. And it was really the start of Diogo Jota's rich vein of form in the Premier League, particularly at home. So Wolves raced into a 2-0 lead, and then Leicester started the second half really well and came back to 2-2. Then Jota scored to make it 3-2. Wes Morgan equalised with only a couple of minutes to go, and we thought that we'd blown it. And then a goal, I think, which really encapsulates Wolves as a whole. We were under pressure. Neves spraying the ball out so well to Jimenez. Johnny Evans, I just remember him struggling to get back and get a touch on the ball. And then Jimenez squaring it, and Jota first time into the bottom corner. Really well taken finish. And really the first moment of limbs at Molineux. We've seen quite a few of these moments away from home, but not many at home. And to win a game against our closest rivals geographically of the season, it wasn't really about that at all. But it was one of our rivals for 7th place at the time who was struggling, and we managed to get that win as well, which was huge and kick-started our second half of the season. Now, the next moment I've written down for home moments is actually the next home game, if I'm correct. Yes. And that's Wolves 3, West Ham United 0. Another team who at the time were pushing for 7th with us, and we just absolutely tore them apart. We'd seen Wolves just about beat them earlier on in the season to win that first Premier League game. But this was the best that we'd played at home and the most complete performance. And that week itself was a little bit like the week where we played Leeds and Bolton last season in the Championship, where everything had clicked. We were in good form, everybody was fit and at the top form. We beat West Ham on the Tuesday and then went on to beat Everton comfortably at the weekend as well. That was a really good moment and a really good game where we started to think that we are a very, very good Premier League team. And I think it was probably Raul Jimenez's finest hour as well. 2 goals in front of the South Bank, and a particularly well taken third goal for the Wolves, where he chipped it over Fabianski, who had been really good in that first half. It was 0-0 at half time, and then 3 goals in the second half from Wolves to win the game. Really, really showed their full potential in that game. And then finally, we've gone chronologically, but if we were going to go up in order anyway, this would be my moment of the season, and maybe the moment of my whole Wolves supporting life, particularly at Molineux, and that's Wolves 2, Manchester United 1 in the FA Cup. I just remember the whole day really clearly, waking up, finding a £20 note in the car and just feeling like it was going to be our day, and playing well in 5-a-side, coming to put a bet on Wolves to win, both teams to score. Just the emotion, filling up every time I was thinking about Wolves winning that evening and thinking, oh, it just won't happen, it won't happen. But we turned up, and the fans turned up, and the noise, and just everybody singing Hi Ho Silver Lining and all the verses to it, which I'd never heard before. It was a different atmosphere at Molineux that day, and if I could bottle that moment when Jota scored that second goal, I would. I hugged the person next to me. My dad, seen him jumping up and down for the first time in a long time at a Wolves match, or maybe ever. And then the music at the end, Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Change the World. I've been listening to that song almost every day since that game. And when it comes on, it just makes me smile, makes me think of that game. Just the first couple of notes, just I can picture Nuno punching the air in the last minute. But yeah, I can get very sentimental about that game, I think, and everybody who's there will be talking about it for many, many years to come. And regardless of what happened in the semi-final, but perhaps we'll talk about that another day. But that afternoon, that evening at Molineux, will never be forgotten. Now, so successful has our home form been this season that I've got 5 games written down here as well, which could easily, on another season, have been our best performances. But this is how good our season has been. So I've written down Everton 2, Wolves 2, because it was our first game back in the Premier League. And both times that we'd entered the Premier League previously, we'd lost to Blackburn when we'd lost 5-1, and then 2-0 to West Ham back in 2009. But we really showed our fight and our grit, and we should have done better that game as well, with Jagielka being sent off quite early on for Everton. We failed to capitalise on that. Of course, there was an iconic goal from Neves from the free kick, and then Jimenez announced himself on the stage of the Premier League with that downward header to make it 2-2. They looked good, and they looked like they could control a Premier League team and a Premier League game. It's just unfortunate that they couldn't quite grab that winning goal. And of course, I've already mentioned the Chelsea game, which turned our season around, and I mentioned in a previous video as well about Ryan Bennett's block that I think single-handedly turned our season around. Without that, we wouldn't have had the season that we have had. The Liverpool game in the FA Cup is up there, of course. Liverpool had come to Molineux a couple of weeks before and had schooled us in the league. Salah and Firmino and Van Dijk were all superb. Even James Milner I was impressed by. However, they were all rested for the FA Cup game, and that's why I didn't quite put it into that bracket of top moments, because it wasn't the full Liverpool team. But still, to beat Liverpool, regardless of who's playing on the pitch, is still an achievement, and hopefully we can do it in a couple of weeks' time. The Man United League game as well sort of definitely goes under the radar because we'd beaten them a couple of weeks before, and it was not half as euphoric as the FA Cup game, but it was sort of expected it now. A top 6 team comes and we'll knock them off, and that's exactly the same as the last one, which was the other night against Arsenal. 3-1, 3-0 up against Arsenal at half-time, having not beaten them for 40 years, which I couldn't quite believe, and we beat them with ease. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about this season at home. We'll come to the away moments later on. If there's any home moments that you think I've missed, then pop them in the comments down below. Perhaps it could be Willy Bolly's last-minute equaliser against Newcastle, something like that. Or what else? We've got the Burnley win, maybe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe with the notification bell on, so you don't miss any further uploads. There's been a few people who've missed out on stuff because you don't have the bell on. Come on, you've got to get the bell on.